Hi, everyone, this is the Encyclopedia channel. The book that this program interprets for you is called Essentialism. The author of this book is Greg McGivern, one such knowledge entrepreneur who focuses on innovation and focus. He founded his own consulting company to provide services to the world's top companies such as Apple, Google, and Facebook. He is a contributor to magazines such as Fortune and Harvard Business Review. He also held a seminar on essentialism at Stanford University courses and was invited to give a speech at the World Economic Forum, with extraordinary influence. The viewpoints and methods mentioned in this book can be a practical manual for optimizing work and improving life. If you are facing problems with work efficiency and career direction, it may help you solve the problems. So, what is essentialism? Why do we need essentialism, and how to practice essentialism? After listening to this episode, you will understand. Do you often feel that you are busy at work, but the efficiency is poor? Or, do you feel like your life is disorganized and overwhelmed because time is constantly being disrupted by external demands? Or, do you feel like you've been working so hard that you don't see a career breakthrough in sight? If you are in such a predicament, then the concept and method of essentialism advocated in this book may help you out of the predicament. What is essentialism? Simply put, essentialism is a way of thinking and an attitude towards life. It advocates that we only do what we should do the most, and we must not be greedy for perfection. Only by putting time and energy on the most important things can we achieve the highest efficiency, contribute the most. You may think, isn't this what people often call focusing or doing subtraction? Yes, many concepts and suggestions of essentialism have already appeared in various media and are not new. But you must know that there are many things we can't do well, not because we don't know the reason or have no method, but because we can't combine the reason and the method. Because if you don't know the way, you can't do things well. If you don't know the reason, you can't do things for a long time. Therefore, we need a set of concepts, steps, and methods of essentialism as a systematic solution to help us solve problems. In this book, the author puts forward the concept of essentialism, introduces the thinking mode of essentialism, and the systematic method of transforming them into actions, which can help readers put their time and energy on the most important things, so that seek the highest efficiency and the greatest contribution. Of course, regarding this kind of subtraction thinking, we have explained a book called Minimalism, but that book focuses on life, teaching people to simplify their lifestyles and discard unimportant items in their lives. Improve the quality of life and happiness index. And this book focuses on work, teaching people how to focus on their careers in order to achieve career progress and success. Next, we will divide this book into two parts. The first part is about the ideology of essentialism. What is essentialism and why do we need essentialism? The second part is the practical method of essentialism. What steps and paths can we use to achieve the goal of essentialism? I hope that after listening to it, it can help you distinguish between important and unimportant things, find the right career direction through decisive choices, and improve work efficiency, and get rid of trivial and meaningless lives, and focus on important and valuable lives. First part. First of all, let's look at what is essentialism and why do we need essentialism. The concept of essentialism, as we mentioned earlier, is to advocate doing only what should be done, and putting time and energy on the most important things in order to achieve the greatest contribution and highest efficiency. According to the author, it is to take less but better as the iron law of action. Its concept is very clear, but to understand essentialism deeply, it is best to compare it with non-essentialism. You know, essentialism emphasizes less is better, while aphrasism considers everyone and everything. Essentialism believes that there are few important things in life, and we need to make a choice, and the key is how to choose. The non-essentialist thinking is that everything is important, we cannot ignore anything, and we must arrange everything properly. In other words, non-essentialism is the mindless pursuit of more, while essentialism is the disciplined pursuit of less. As a result, essentialists get a select amount of important work done and are under control. Non-essentialists often feel burned out and overwhelmed by taking on too many tasks. For example, the significance of essentialism to life and career is like organizing our wardrobe. If you never organize your closet, it will become a mess, most of which are clothes you rarely wear, and it is difficult to find clothes every time, but if you clean it regularly, it will be neat and tidy, with only a few hanging a few pieces of clothing that you love to wear. that are very convenient to use and feel good to wear. Therefore, essentialism is not to occasionally delete the daily task list, but to eliminate those unimportant things purposefully and strategically, not only to get rid of those obvious wastes of time, but also to give up some good opportunities, because there are so many opportunities in the world, and it is impossible to try all of them with personal time and energy. We can only focus on a few important things. In other words, compared with the non-essentialists, one is that the energy is scattered on many different things, resulting in sporadic progress in everything, but none of them are satisfactory. The other is that the same energy use it on a few things, so you can make significant progress on the most important things and get satisfying results. You see, the benefits of essentialism are obvious, and the logic is clear. But why are many people still troubled by the problem of non-essentialism? It's like everyone knows the benefits of organizing your wardrobe, but most people's wardrobes are still messy. In this book, the author summarizes 2 reasons. The first is the paradox that comes with success. If we have a focused goal and focus of our efforts, it will definitely help us succeed. But after success, you will have more opportunities to choose, spend more time and energy, and be disturbed by more things. As a result, it will deviate from the original goal, unable to maintain the original focus, thus planting the seeds of failure. In addition, there are social reasons. Under various social trends, non-essentialism will prevail. One is that the number of available options grows exponentially. In the past few decades, due to the development of trade globalization, people have more and more opportunities to choose, which exceeds their own management ability, because the more choices, the more difficult it is to filter out important things. That is, psychologists' so-called decision fatigue. The more decisions to be made, the lower the quality of the decisions. The second is the troubles brought about by technological progress. The popularity of mobile internet and mobile phones allows people to quickly share information, but it also brings new problems. Because of high-speed internet, information overload, and too many opinions, it will cause our attention to be distracted, social pressure will increase, and it will greatly interfere with our thinking and decision-making. The third is to be misled by the concept of you can have everything. This view is peddled in advertisements, touted in companies, and built into job descriptions. In today's age of rapidly expanding choices and expectations, it's fuel for a busy life. In such an environment, the pursuit of essentialism is not easy. Only by emphasizing essentialist thinking can we resist the influence of non-essentialism. This thinking includes 3 aspects. 1 is choice. We must believe that choice is an important force. What makes a human being is the ability to choose. If you ignore the ability to choose, you will choose to be helpless, and you can only obey the choices of others, or obey external forces, and destroy your own free will. The second is screening. You must know that for a single person, many things in the universe, including many behaviors of human beings, are of little value. Most of what we face is noise, only a few are precious. Therefore, more effort does not necessarily mean more gains, but less pursuit may result in better results. The third is trade-offs. Just as the economist Thomas Sowell said, the so-called solution does not exist, there are only trade-offs. We can't have everything and do everything. We must recognize what we want, and in key areas make wise choices and be the master of your actions. In short, essentialist thinking requires 3 changes, from I have to do to I choose to do, from all these things are important to most things are not important, from how can we balance everything to how can persevere. Once these concepts are established, there are 3 steps to practicing essentialism, which will be described in detail later. Here we might as well borrow the metaphor of organizing the closet to briefly talk about these 3 steps. The first step is to explore. Faced with a lot of messy clothes, don't ask, will I have a chance to wear this dress in the future? Instead ask, do I like this dress? Does this dress look good on me? If it is negative, it should be eliminated. Just like at work, don't ask, will this work for me, but ask, will this thing help me achieve my goals the most? This will help to make a correct judgment. The second step is exclusion. If you divide clothes into 2 categories, one is must keep and the other is needs cleaning, you will find that it is difficult to throw away old clothes. Because people value what they own more than it is actually worth. At this time, you can change your mind and ask, if I don't have it now, how much would I pay for it? Often the problem can be solved. Because for most of the old clothes, we are definitely not willing to spend money to buy them again. In other words, their current value is equal to zero, so we should resolutely get rid of them. The third step is execution. Keeping your closet tidy requires regular cleaning and disposal. For example, put the things you want to throw away in big bags, and rearrange the things you want to keep. You need to know where the waste is stored and the hours of operation of the local thrift store, and arrange a time to go there, etc. That is to say, at work, once you figure out which things to discard and which to keep, you need specific methods to implement them, which will be expanded later. In short, Essentialism is a compulsory course for organizing the wardrobe of life. It's not like organizing a real closet once a year, once a month, or once a week. It's an iron law that you have to implement every time you make a decision, a trade-off between the many meaningless chores and the few that really matter. Master this set of rules, you can get twice the result with half the effort in your work. What will happen if we don't understand essentialism and don't tidy up the wardrobe of life on time? As time goes on, your wardrobe will become more and more cluttered, full of clothes you rarely wear, and your image management will be greatly affected. Similarly, in life and career, as our social roles become more and more complicated and we have more and more commitments, work will become muddled and life will become very bad. This state of affairs will go on forever unless we find a way to organize systematically. The second part. This is what we are going to talk about next. What steps and methods are used to practice essentialism? You know, essentialism is planning your life, not doing things intuitively. It does not make choices reactively, but consciously distinguishes the important few from the unimportant majority, discards unimportant things, and provides a clear and smooth path for important things to be realized, so it requires a self-disciplined and systematic approach. The first step is to distinguish between the meaningless majority and the meaningful minority, which is the exploration mentioned above. Recall the wardrobe we talked about earlier. If we use a broad standard to ask whether a certain piece of clothing will have a chance to be worn again in the future, then the result can be imagined, and the closet will be full of clothes that are hardly worn. On the contrary, only by asking yourself, do you really like it and does it look good on you? Such clear questions can make it possible to clean up those messy clothes and make room for better clothes. Likewise, non-essentialists use blind, unspecified criteria in making choices. For example, the leader asked me to do it, so I will do it. Or more broadly, someone asks me to do it, so I will do it. Even others are doing it, so I should do it too. Etc. This kind of broad standards would greatly increase our mandate and impose a serious burden. So how do you discern what really matters and filter out the unimportant? There is a simple method: anything, as long as you are not so sure, reject it decisively. In the words of one entrepreneur, if the answer isn't a definite yes, it should be a definite no. This sentence is very important. According to this line of thinking, the author advocates that when we face various opportunities or tasks, we only accept the top 10% of objects. The book puts forward 3 steps, 3 minimum standards and 3 extreme standards to make choices for them. The first step is to write down the available opportunities. The second step is to write down 3 minimum standards, which must be met before they can be considered. The third step is to write down 3 extreme criteria. If this opportunity does not meet 2 of the 3 extreme criteria, the answer is still no. With such a simple process, most options can be eliminated. For example, if we mentally search for a good career opportunity, we get a lot of results. But if you ask 3 ideal questions, what am I deeply passionate about? That's what clear standards and systems do. In addition, the author also mentioned that in the complicated society, we should properly withdraw from the present, take a step back to see the situation clearly, and create space for ourselves to explore and think. It is also necessary to look at the overall situation, rather than entanglement in details, in order to recognize the essence of the problem. If possible, it is best to go on site visits, capturing unusual details to discover what really matters. In short, essentialists spend a lot of time listening, thinking, and exploring in order to sort out the meaningful few from the meaningless many. Then came the second step, exclusion, that is, getting rid of the meaningless majority. Think back to the wardrobe mentioned earlier. By this point, you've scoured everything in your closet and divided your clothes into piles that must be kept and piles that should be thrown away. But you will find that throwing away old clothes is not easy. You may be a little bit reluctant and worry about what to do if you regret throwing away a certain piece of clothing after a while. This feeling is normal. People often value things they own higher than their actual value, so they are reluctant to throw them away. This is the so-called endowment effect. You can think about it another way: how much would I pay for it if I didn't have it? This approach, that is, pretending that you don't have it, can help us get rid of many things that seem useful but have no value. Similarly, when deciding which things to eliminate at work, you can also ask, if I didn't have this opportunity, what would I be willing to do? Come and get involved? If the answer isn't a definite yes, it should be a definite no. This is an important way to rule out those lesser options. The book mentions that the reason why we get entangled in redundant things is that we are unwilling to admit past failures in many cases, and try to recover the defeat and make up for the loss. At this time, it is especially important to emphasize that stop-loss is the biggest win. Just like the author mentioned a friend of his who never stopped to ask for directions while driving, because he didn't want to admit that he was lost, and ended up wasting time going around and around, but he couldn't get anywhere. This is a typical non-essential behavior. When a mistake occurs, the only way to let this mistake stay in the past is to admit that you made a mistake. If we keep denying our mistakes, we'll be spinning in circles aimlessly, making no progress. What to do at this time is to admit the mistake, stop the loss as soon as possible, and start again. There is another analogy in the book that touched me deeply. It compares the elimination of meaningless trifles to an editor. As one entrepreneur once said, the CEO is the chief editor of the company. Essentialists believe that improvement requires pruning, subtracting those words, images, and details that distract attention. Non-essentialists believe that improvement means adding and lingering on every word, image, or detail. From this, the author proposes 4 principles of editing life, including deletion, self-discipline, discarding good options, correction, reviewing the core, adjusting direction, and cautious restraint, etc., which can be used to expel meaningless trivial matters from our lives. Plus, excluding unimportant things means saying no to other people, and it's a regular one. This means that it takes courage to reject many social expectations. Ordinary people often promise unnecessary things to avoid embarrassment, but essentialists dare to say no firmly and gracefully. It is not only a mental training, but also an emotional training. Regarding this point, the original book has a wonderful exposition, but due to space limitations, I will not expand here. If you are interested, I recommend you to read it. In conclusion, turning down opportunities at work and in life is much harder than throwing out the old clothes in the closet, but we have to make decisions. Only by choosing among those seemingly important things can we focus on our career and pave the way for the next step of success. The final step is execution, making the meaningful few things easy to do. Going back to the previous analogy, if you want to keep your closet tidy, you need to do regular tidying. For example, you'll need a large bag for the items you're throwing out, and you'll need to know where the scrap is stored and what hours your local thrift store is open. That said, once we determine which behaviors and efforts to preserve, we need a standing system to enforce them. You can't wait until your closet is bursting to burst before doing a grueling cleanout. For important tasks, there are 2 schools of thought: either perform it by brute force, or let it work automatically. Non-essentialists believe that important things are forced to be done, that execution is a blunt effort that requires hard work in order to get things done. Essentialists, on the other hand, devise routines that allow things they consider important to be carried out along a default path. With the right routine, every ounce of effort produces the desired effect. For example, without the right routine, we often fall into non-essential habits, like checking our phones as soon as we wake up every morning, buying a daily snack on the way home from get-off work, or surfing the internet. How do you get rid of these meaningless trivial habits to perform important routine activities? The book introduces 5 links, including gnawing the most difficult bones first, establishing a mixed routine, breaking stereotypes and bad habits one by one, and so on. Due to space limitations, we focus on 2. The first is to overhaul your own behavioral triggers. In other words, if you want to change your routine, you don't need to actually change your behavior, You just need to find the stimulus that triggered these habits and connect it to other important things. For example, if the supermarket on your commute is your trigger for a snack, ask it to remind you to pick up a salad at the deli across the street the next time you pass by. Or, if you swipe your phone when your alarm goes off, use it as an incentive to get up and read. At first, it can be hard to resist the temptation to buy a snack or check your phone. But every time you perform a new behavior, you strengthen the association of this stimulus with the new behavior in your brain, and after a period of repetition, you will subconsciously and automatically perform the new routine. The second is to create new triggers. In order to have new changes in behavior, it cannot be limited to existing stimulus events, but new events can be created to form new routines. It is in this way that the author cultivates the habit of keeping a diary. Before he kept his diary, he wrote for a few days and rested for a few days. Later I heard that I needed something as a signal to remind myself to write at a certain time every day. So he put the diary in his bag, next to the phone. Every night when he takes his phone out of his bag to charge, he sees the diary as a visual reminder to write in it. In this way, he developed the habit of keeping a diary, and thus established an automatic program of the target behavior. In addition, to be able to execute the predetermined plan, it is very important to focus on the present moment. If a person is always obsessed with past successes or failures, and immerses himself in the future, the challenges and opportunities he imagines, he will definitely be absent-minded and distracted, which is the so-called looking forward and backward. So how can you focus on the present moment? This book proposes 3 points. First, think clearly about what is most important at the moment. Second, clear out the future, and prioritize each list. Only in this way can we grasp the key points and concentrate our energy. In addition, we must pay attention to the value of small victories, that is, we must applaud ourselves for every small progress, so that we can continuously enhance our self-confidence and push us towards the predetermined goal. In short, whether it is to complete a work task or to reach a new career height, we usually feel that the implementation process is full of difficulties, and we must bite the bullet and force ourselves to complete it. The essentialist is different. Instead of forcing himself to perform, he saves time and creates a way to remove obstacles and make task execution easy. Through such program shaping, you can get twice the result with half the effort in your work, gain more and contribute more. Now, let's recap. In the first part, we introduced the basic concepts of essentialism, including what is essentialism and why we need essentialism. The so-called essentialism is to put time and energy on the most important things and abandon unimportant things in order to achieve the greatest contribution and the highest efficiency. According to the author's words, it is to regard the pursuit of less but better as the iron law of action. It helps us focus our efforts on important things, leading to significant progress and satisfying results. However, under new social trends, such as the dramatic increase in choices brought about by globalization, the information overload and distraction brought about by the mobile internet, etc., it is difficult for people to stay focused and focused. In this environment, in order to resist the influence of non-essential factors, we must emphasize essentialism and complete 3 changes in concept, from I must do it to I choose to do it, from these are all important to most things don't matter, from how to juggle everything to how to persevere. This will lay the groundwork for practicing essentialism. In Part 2, we describe ways to practice essentialism. It consists of 3 steps. The first is exploration, which is to distinguish between the meaningless majority and the meaningful minority. The easiest way is to reject anything as long as you are not very sure, so that you can ignore 90% of the opportunities and only keep 10% of the key points. The second step is to exclude, that is, to discard the meaningless majority. For an opportunity or task that needs to be given up, we have to assume that it does not exist and ask ourselves how much we are willing to pay to own it now, so that we can see its value and make a correct judgment. The final step is execution, which is making the meaningful few things easy to do. The most important thing about this step is to check your own behavior triggers, get rid of bad habits, establish and consolidate good habits, and focus on the present, without being disturbed by past or future distracting thoughts, and automatically complete the most important tasks according to the good habits you have developed task. The combination of these 3 steps can not only form a closed loop, but also can continue to operate, allowing us to obtain a set of long-term solutions. I would like to insert a sentence here. Regarding the practical methods of essentialism, the original book has more detailed content. Due to space limitations, I will not expand here one by one. If you are interested, you can read the original book. But even if you don't read the original book, you have roughly grasped its core content so far. Finally, it should be emphasized that there are two ways of thinking about essentialism. One is to treat it as an occasional experiment, and the other is to treat it as an attitude in life. Obviously, for essentialism to work, it must be embedded in our consciousness and solidified into behavioral habits. Otherwise, it is like a gust of wind that, after bringing us some comfort, is quickly gone. There is such a sentence in the book: the top priority is to treat the top priority as the top priority. Remember, non-essentialism is the blind pursuit of more, while essentialism is the self-disciplined pursuit of less. Take the pursuit of less but better essentialism as an iron law of action, not it takes an occasional inspiration and it makes a real difference. This is the end of this episode of the show. What do you think about it differently? Welcome to leave a message to discuss with everyone. Hey, if you like our channel, please subscribe us. Haha, remember to like it.